Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. This is Season 3, Episode number 1. Woohoo! And we are recording this on Sunday, January 9th, 2022, the first recorded episode of the new year. And this episode is currently scheduled to go live on Monday, January 31st of 2022. My name is Collin. I'm a teacher, tarot and oracle card reader, and I'm also the singer and guitarist in the band Red Treasure. And I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina, and I am a transformational life coach, and I help people shift their thinking, and it transforms their lives. And I am in San Diego, California.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you're listening to the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, or Overcast, thank you for watching us. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, we post a brand new episode every Monday morning. So thank you so much for liking this episode, following, subscribing, and reviewing us on your podcast platform, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. These all help. As my phone goes off. These all help other people find us, and we are very grateful to you for that. You can also leave us a comment on the YouTube video if you're watching us there, or however you're watching or listening, you can email us at cocreationstation1111@gmail.com. Each week we start our discussion from a different jumping off point, and this week we are very excited and very happy to have with us Dana Griffin. She is a mind coach, and she focuses on working with people to help free them and empower them. So welcome, Dana, to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. We've been trying to have you on for a while. It's great to finally have you here. I've been following you personally on Instagram for a while and been super excited about it. So it's really great to have you here. Just for our audience who doesn't know you yet, could you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you discovered the work that you do right now?
Sure. So my discovery, I think, began a long time ago. But the mind coaching really has interested me because it all starts with the mind. You know, we need to sort of understand how our mind works before we understand how anything else is going to change or shift. So that became clearer and clearer to me, you know, over time. I began my whole journey in my early sobriety, right? So I am a sober member of a 12-step fellowship that I just loved and had so much learning from, right? I learned so much from that. And I took some of that and I just continued to apply it in different areas. It started to free me here and there. As I became more and more free from the 12-step program, I recognized, well, you know what? There's more. You know, there's always more. There's deeper and deeper learnings that it started out that way, but it continued, right, on my own journey, just questioning, just wanting to go deeper, wanting to experience more of this. Like, well, what is all this about? How does this mind work? You know, how am I doing things? And, you know, how is life showing up? How do I learn to trust life? How do I learn to trust, right, what's going on and what's happening in my world, right? So I just took it one step further and I started practicing, you know, getting certified in coaching. I started practicing getting certified in other spiritual modalities. I just kept going from there because I was so curious as to how I was shifting and changing just by the application of some of these things that I had learned early on. And like I was really shifting. And I needed that, you know, I really needed that. I was curious. And I think one thing just led to another, you know, just one thing led to another. And I'm just going to say, just here I am, you know, continuing to explore and to continue to learn. But to really, you know, now where I'm really understanding is that underneath it all, I am free, right? I am free, like inherently free, inherently valuable, inherently worthy, inherent, like all these things are deeply inherent. My teaching really focus on what's on top of that, the subconscious narratives that are sort of covered up, right? That inherent value, that inherent freedom, and that
True.
deep power, that deep empowerment that we have, right? We are powerful. We are very capable. But what is underneath that, or what is on top of that, is this belief that we're not. And it really is like, such a pull for us. It's like we buy into that completely. It's either we like really buy into it, right? Or we're like trying to overcome it, right? Overcompensate in a way. So we're either like buying into the fact that we are just fully a piece of crap, or we're overcompensating, right? Or this perfectionism and this like, it's either way, but it's still the same dialogue, right? It's still the same narrative. So that's what I help people do, because I've had to myself overcome that. And I've seen how it works in me. I've seen how I've gotten up in the morning with this dialogue that just isn't who I am. And I'm, well, what is this? And why does it keep happening? And we all suffer from that. Like, I'm serious. It's a suffering, but it's self-imposed. It's self-imposed. So
We don't even know that, right?
we don't until we do.
Right. It's such an automatic thing.
It's automatic, but awareness is the power,
That's where it all begins, right?
Yes, exactly.
That is awesome.
That's my deal. That's what I'm bringing to the world. And my commitment is empowering and freeing people. And it's really just like, hey, you know who you are. Come on, let's get with that program. Let's stop with all the nonsense, disbelief, right? Let's get with the program and what you really, really know about yourself. We're just blocked. So yeah, it's great. I love it.
That's really awesome. Do you find, is it when you work with clients, do you have to sort of hone in on them and adjust your methodology to each individual person to a large extent? Or do you have kind of a method of like, do you identify people's like limiting beliefs first and then like try to teach them new empowering beliefs, or what is your process like typically?
So it's really about awareness. That is the key. So it's bringing awareness to their narratives, to their language, the language around them, what they're saying about themselves, about their lives. That is the key. That is the first door that needs to open, so they even can hear what they're saying, right? It's like what they don't know. It's subconscious. It's deep.
That's
a
very
loop.
empowering.
It's a loop of words that they live in. So when I talk about narrative, I talk about story. What I'm saying is this is their world that they live in, that they come from. It's a fish swimming in water. They have no idea. They're just in it. So it's bringing that awareness. And it is very empowering, because they're like, whoa, I didn't realize I was doing that for all these years, or thinking that. So that's basically the first step. It's just opening that door. And that can be a little while, that can take a minute, because people are very devoted to their limitations.
Yeah.
Right? They're very devoted to their lack.
And protective, right? It's like identity. This is my identity. This is it. Because if not, then who am I?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it takes a little bit of uncovering. But you know what? When people are committed, they start to see, you know what, I'm committed to getting free. So what do I need to know here? So it's a beautiful process, and it doesn't really even take that long. It just depends how devoted they are to their own limitations.
And readiness. Someone needs to be ready, right? Like Because if they're not, then they're attached, and then it's going to take a lot longer if it happens at all, right?
Right.
Do you have clients that come to you in that way where they, they understand they're blocked, or they're not living the life they want to live, and they feel stuck or something like that, but then when you start to work with them and you start to identify the issue, which is really like their mental programming for the most part, that they're unwilling to do that work, they're unwilling to let go of the beliefs, or do most of the people come to you are ready to do that work?
I think that people don't even know that they're unwilling. They hit certain walls within them. Okay, so as we go through the process of uncovering, they're hitting these walls, and that is the golden ticket, because the trigger, the wall is, okay, hello, this is it. This is what is in front of your inherent value. And it's them to even see that there's beauty innately in them. They are born, it is just a repetitive reprogramming. That's all it is, right? I'm not adding anything to them. I'm literally.
It's more like you're stripping away the false beliefs that were added on top. Yeah.
So once they're in the process and we're talking and discussing, I am continuing to remind them who they are, right? The way that I do it, the way that I work, and how it comes out is it's me being my own human self, right? And my humanity, and reminding you of yours, and recognizing my own as we go along, because every time I'm with a client, it is different, but it's the same energy, but everybody's different, right? But my approach, is the same energy. I really am about, hey, you know what? I want you to see this. I really want you to see how okay you are, right? Like, I'm about bringing love. I'm about bringing compassion to you, to your understanding that you are that, right? So it's important. It's really important that I am this first, right? Right? I bring that energy first. That really helps people, right? Really helps people feel held, seen, so they can see themselves and realize they are being held by something much greater.
I think that's one thing that I got out of I was reading some of the testimonials that you've received from some of your clients that you've posted on Instagram. And on one of them, I was really moved because the person spoke of the fact that you were able to help them have this major shift, but that there was pain along the way, because there's, as you identify the things that really have been blocking you and you start to let go of them, you realize that it wasn't your parents, it wasn't the economy, it wasn't, whatever. It was mostly your stuff. So there's like an angle of, I don't know, guilt or regret or whatever around that. And then also it's this sort of, there's fear around like, okay, well now I have to step into this thing that I said I wanted to be, but now I see how kind of big and open and wide it is. And what this particular person that had worked with you said was that, that really, really hit me, was that she felt so held by you and your process. Like, she felt so protected and safe to go on that journey, which can have a very intense emotional component to it, as you kind of unravel these, unhelpful beliefs, and you see like, oh my gosh, I was kind of, in one way, I was capable of this. It's like the Wizard of Oz ending, right? Like, you were capable of it all along, you just didn't know it, but that's what this person emphasized was that. And I think that's, I think it's easier for coaches to give people breakthroughs. But I think what I've always noticed, both as a client and as sort of some of the informal coaching I've done with people in my life, it's like it can bring up really big stuff. And if you're just go do this exercise, and it'll help you, and I'll see you next week and we'll do more exercises, and there isn't like a safe space, it can be a really terrifying, process to go through.
Yeah. Yes. being held,
Yeah.
knowing they are in a safe place with a safe person who has gone through some of the same things.
Mm.
Yeah, so you
It's
can really
really,
relate.
yes.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
bring your own experience with it. That's wonderful. Almost here too, like a little bit of for those of us who didn't grow up with really loving present parents.
Mm.
There's this energy of like what that would have been like to have been parented by someone who just explained things and who was available and loving and supportive and kind and uplifting. I just hear a lot of that loving energy that you bring to your clients as you hold space for them.
Oh, thank you.
Super, super supportive.
Yes. Yes.
Can you
And
talk
that,
about, oh, sorry, do you want to?
well, I was going to say that we turn in on ourselves too. So
Mm.
we turn that energy towards ourselves, to the things that are painful, towards what's uncomfortable, right? Towards that ego that's lashing out. We hold the same space for that. So, yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about was, again, one of the themes I've picked up through your awesome Instagram posts and stories is this whole thing about deserving and worthiness. Because as I've mentioned to Stephanie here on the podcast before, I kind of part of what I do here, I'm trying to keep in mind like the potential audience member who's found us who watched the movie The Secret, which is like most people's like big, entry into the world of even understanding that there is a law of attraction and that it affects us all the time. But I feel like I've talked to people who watch The Secret and they tell me the story about like, yeah, and then I tried to do the stuff they said for a few weeks, none of it worked. So I just abandoned it. And I'm always just like, because I think The Secret's a great gateway, but it's like there's so many I think it tries to cover so much ground in such a short period of time. That one thing that can get missed is that if you have a bunch of negative core beliefs from your background that are like, dominant in your brain all day long, you can look at pictures on your computer monitor of the car you want all day, and that's not going to necessarily help you, because if your brain is saying, I don't deserve a new car, while you look at a picture of the new car, you're going to attract the lack of the car again.
Which again, like Dana has been saying, is like we don't even realize these narratives.
Yeah.
Like I'm just starting to see like, oh, there are certain things that I don't feel deserving and worthy of. And it's like, ooh, that really hurts.
Yeah.
And so I'm just looking at that and just working through those things, because there are many things in my life that it's just, of course, it's those that's I deserve it. You know what I mean? It's not even a question of it. But then there's a couple of little things where I'm like, oh, I don't. Wow. Whoa. It's very eye-opening. It's like that's why it's not showing up.
Yes, life is a mirror. Life is a mirror, but it's a great mirror, and it's a great way for us to see where we're at, right? So when something is in my circumstance, which is not who you are, right? It's just who you've been. Circumstances just show who you've been, where you've been, what your thinking has been. And so we have the power to change that, right? We have the power to look at our circumstances and say, okay, so this is kind of showing me where I'm at. And where I'm at has been inside of me, what I've been thinking, what I've been feeling, how I've been relating to myself, how I've been viewing myself, right? That's what shows up. But that doesn't mean that's who you are. That's just the way you've been relating to yourself. So we get to change that, right? That relationship with ourselves by holding space for that part of us, whatever part that shows up that's uncomfortable, in pain, in limitations. We really, that relationship with ourselves we really need to comfort that, right? Like it's just asking to be held. It's asking to have some space for it, some humanity, right? It's asking like, hey, I don't like what's going on. I don't like this situation. I don't like who I am. I'm not enough. Or this, I'm not getting this or this, that. All of that showing up is because we're in almost resistance to what is, right? We're resistant to like ourselves, our process, our lives. It's just like we don't want it. We don't want it. We don't like it, right? Like, why not? You know, what's going on there?
Well, it's interesting, Dana, that you say this because so many, you say, be with it.
Be
And
with it.
so many of us want to run from it. We
Yeah.
don't, or we think that if I sit with it, it's going to last forever. And we've talked about that before, how the child will cry and 5 minutes later they're laughing or playing. And,
Right.
and so I like that you're saying it's because I can tend to be someone who goes to more joy. And when the uncomfortableness comes up, I want to run from it. And so I've been practicing this past year of just kind of being with it. It's okay because it will pass. But I love that you say sitting with that. And then the other thing is you were talking about it's who I was being. And I think for a lot of us, it's like, well, if this is how I am, I have this narrative like, well, then I can't be because this is how it's been. And so a lot of us are in that space of like, well, if it's never happened before, then it can't. But there are a ton of things like this. We're having the three of us together. This has never happened before. And yet here we are. And that happens all the time. And we don't see that.
Yes, it's that narrative, it's that voice. And life is presenting to us, it's just showing us where we are. It is not, it is constantly changing, like you said. This has never happened before, right? So we get stuck in that place where it's like, it can't be any different.
And I love what Abraham says is like every moment is new. The only thing is you keep telling the same story. You keep doing the same thing. And so it's changing, but it's changing to the same thing.
Yes, yes, yes. Every moment is new. I love that. Absolutely. Yes.
Dana, can you talk about I think we've discussed this on the podcast before, but I think you have a unique perspective on it. What is the definition of success? Like, or what should people, how should they define success? Because like our culture here in America, I feel like is just obsessed with that word, but there's also all sorts of toxicity associated with it.
Yes. It's at peace, being at peace. It's being at peace. That is a successful person. I mean, when you see a person who is like at peace with where they are, how they are, who they are, as things are, don't you feel the success coming from that? Don't you feel like in that moment, oh wow, that's success? Because that's all you'll ever really need in the moment, right? There's no other, there is no other time and place. It's only, we have only right now. So when you have this person who's at peace with all of things as they are, with themselves, most importantly, it's really a beautiful, beautiful thing. It just resonates throughout. So success is really being at peace. It's that peaceful place of, I'm okay. I'm good. Yeah, that to me is like real success, because from that stems everything else. Because if you can really be in the moment, appreciating, not even in appreciation, just being with what is, because everything always is what is. There's never any other way it is. It just is. There's never any way. Like right here as I am, this is all that I am right here, right now. There's no other magic happening but this moment. So when that person personifies that, when they embody that resonates, that goes out far. And it starts to show up in your life, right? The life starts to mirror that for you. So you get to see, as a person, I get to see when I'm at peace with where I'm at and who I am, how life resonates that. I have peaceful interactions. I have a harmony. Everything stems from that, right? So that to me is real success. It's fulfillment. Really, it is, right? It's like, I like where I'm at. This is
Well,
good.
I feel like that's what, yeah, it's one of those things too. And Stephanie and I have talked about this before where it's like, people want, it's like, as what Abraham and Stephanie and I, at least I think, agree on is like that desire is going to happen. Like you're going to have desires. If you're a human being walking around the world, you're going to see things you like and that you don't necessarily want, but you're going to see things you don't like. And then you're going to see things you like and you want to bring those into your life. And so that's natural. But I think so often in our culture, we get caught up in like, well, if I get these external things, if I get this new car, or if I get this new house or bigger house or a bigger car or a nicer car or whatever, or a nicer, I'm single now and I'll be happy when I have a partner, all these things. Like that's not the core. If you're saying I'm going to be okay when I get that thing, that's where you're off, because that's not going to lead to success. That's going to lead to, you'll have this awareness of, oh, now I have that thing, but I still don't like who I am. I still don't like how things are. I still don't feel at peace. So now I got to go get some other thing and see if that does it, and it becomes this cycle, and so we try to talk about that in a balanced way, because I think a lot of people sell themselves because of their limited beliefs, because of their self-concept as like a person who doesn't deserve things. They don't think they deserve a nice car. They don't think they deserve a home that's, nice, safe, and comfortable and all these things. But so we encourage people to visualize what they want. We encourage people to allow it into their life. But there's also this sort of thing going with that, which the goal isn't the house or the car. The goal is for you to wake up in the morning and feel grateful and glad that you're alive, and to be able to go through your day in a way where you feel peace and happy and you feel content, which really is not something any external thing can bring you.
Yes.
And to love and take care of ourselves one day
creating.
at a time.
Oops.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
All while creating, right? Being in creation, right? Like your desires and fulfillment, and these things are very important. So being where you are and at peace, also while creating the life that you imagine, right? So having that, creating that feeling of wanting to express and create. So we're doing it at the same time, right? We're experiencing things as we are at peace all the while, right? We're still progressing and creating and moving forward without being driven by I'm not enough. So when we're saying that car is going to make it better, or that house, there's nothing wrong with the car, the house, having it better, having it more. All of these things are okay. But when we're driven by a subconscious fear and need, then it is in that lack that we just continue in, right? There's no fulfillment there, right? It's just a continual limitation coming from a lack. So there's nothing wrong. I absolutely don't believe there's anything wrong with creating more and having beautiful things and feeling. It's not even it's the unworthiness, and the things are not. They're kind of like, it's the same boat. It's like, putting that in the same boat, it's not gonna work, right? Like when we're coming from a place of like, I'm already abundant, I'm already healthy, I'm already free, I'm already empowered. There is nothing that can there's nothing else, right? So everything else that comes is like what you're creating, right? You're creating from that place. You're either creating from the drive of I'm not enough, or you're creating from the drive of I am enough. I'm everything, I'm good.
And when I come from that place of I am healthy and I am worthy, it's a magnet. And then the law of attraction is responding, and I'm receiving that.
Yes. And I'm not saying that's easy. It's not easy. It's not, it's not, it requires commitment. It requires a decision to want to be, you know, to feel thriving. It's a decision. Do I want this, right? I want to make this decision. This feels good. Yes, I want to move, continually move, take the steps towards releasing the limiting beliefs, right?
And feel better, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
feel better. There's nothing like it, right? But it's not, it doesn't come from the outside, you know, it doesn't come with people thinking, oh, my circumstances have to change. No, your perception has to change. The circumstances, your circumstances are a reflection of us, right? Of me. So those can't change first. We change our perception, the way that we view them, right? Because they show us, right? They're always showing us where we are. Our triggers are always kind of showing us. And we get to say, right? Like, oh, this is what I'm up to. This is what I'm up to. I'm angry, I'm resentful. You know, I'm in fear, right? And that just shows where we're not empowered, where we're not free, right? And it's like, well, how can I get free of this? Be with it, you know? Bring some love and compassion to yourself in the be with it. Hold space for whatever.
I want to ask you though about that, because this is another thing I've heard from various people is, you know, when they find out about that the kind of coaching that you offer or that Stephanie offers, you know, is available to them, or somebody suggests therapy or something, and they say something to the effect of, you know what, I don't want to focus on the past. I don't need to go to some therapist. I don't need some coach to drag me through my childhood. Like, I just want to focus on the present and the future. So I bought this new program from the internet, and it's got action steps for me to, you know, follow my dreams and whatever. And I just was wondering what you would say to that person who's chosen not to deal with unresolved things from their past.
You know, that's where they are. That's where they are. And that's okay. They can be where they are.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's funny you bring that up, Collin, because I've experienced just the opposite, where, especially like in therapy, people want to rehash and they'll see a therapist for 20 years because they're rehashing. Whereas with coaching clients, when I'm working with them, when things come up, we look at them, but that's not what the focus is. And so it just, you know, like kind of what Dana was saying earlier, is you just kind of roll with it. There is like a set kind of system that we've created individually, but organically it just depends on who the person is and how they show up and what's going on, and just being present with them and walking through them with it and supporting them.
I totally understand that. I'm wondering though if there's like a middle path, because my experience has been like, if somebody if they have like trauma or negative core beliefs very well ingrained from their past, and they refuse to even look at it, I don't ever see that person make much progress. But I've also observed what you just mentioned, Stephanie, like the person who stays in therapy for like 20 years, just telling the same story over and over. So, I mean, I feel like there's got to be a middle path there that's like the sweet spot, which is you have a willingness to look at your past. You have a willingness to look at what core beliefs that might be operative for you, that might be limiting. And then you're willing to do the inner work, which, as Dana, you completely point out perfectly correctly, I think, it often is just sitting with the discomfort of it. It's not like some Olympic event where you've got to go run a marathon to get through this pain from your past or whatever. A lot of times it's just stopping the process of ignoring it, blocking it, you know, trying to distract yourself from it, and just sitting with it and letting it come up, tell whatever story it has to tell, and letting it move through you instead of just sort of owning you as this hidden thing underneath all the time.
Right. Most of us are carrying around, you know, most people, I wouldn't say us, but most people operate from a place of, you know, dragging history around, right? When we don't even really know that what we're carrying, right? So it is important However, when someone is not willing, they want to buy a course on the internet and they just want to do that. It's like, have at it.
Okay. Yeah.
Have at it, because that also is a part of the process of awakening and healing.
Yeah.
Right. That's also a step towards
yeah.
what they need to see. You know, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't claim to know, you know, everything. I just stay in the I don't know. I stay in the unknown of like, okay, well, that's your process. That's your process. And I know that however it's going to be, it's going to be. But if people are showing up and coming to see me, you know, I require that they show up for themselves. They commit. You know, it's like,
it really is the biggest part of it, right? Is showing up. Just keep showing up.
Just keep showing up.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, life is like, life will present you, you know, with what you need to see. And we can work with what's being presented. You know, we work with that. And it's good. It's fun. It's a good, fun uncovering, you know, and you can get in there because then you can really start to see, oh, this is what's showing up for me in my life. Let me unravel it. You know, let me dissect this, you know.
Do you have clients who get excited like that, who are, once they're in it a little bit, they start to see what it is and they're just like, oh, wow, look at this. Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh.
And they're getting free. They're getting free from that narrative, from that thing that they have been telling themselves, you know.
That's powerful. Wow. It's life-changing.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd like to say that there's just, you know, there's so many, we think there's so many layers, but there's really only a couple things that are really kind of, you know what I mean? It's like I'm not enough. That's a huge one, right? I'm not enough. There isn't enough.
Or I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough. Yes. Right. There's just like a handful of very, you know, topics.
Yeah.
Right.
Or things that we believe, right?
Or a lot of people go through some really traumatic, deep things as children, right? Some real deep things.
Yeah.
And so it's just like having them understand that they can be there for themselves. Right.
Which is like, the inner child, inner parent work, right?
Yes. Yes. It's the inner parent discovery. It's the inner child discovery. Like, hey, there's this part of me which is the inner child to me is the ego. You know, it's just that it's the ego. You know, it's the ego.
I will say I look at it in a very different way. The inner child. The inner child is that playful, you know, wants to have fun. That's the excited, life-giving part. And then the inner parent is the one like, well, we have to go to work. I need to pay the bills. You need to eat veggies and you need to go to bed on time. And when I'm in my joy, that's my inner child. My joy, you know, comes from my inner child. The ego, I hear what you're saying about the ego, but for me, the process that I learned years ago, the ego has nothing to do with the inner child, inner parent healing and reparenting and learning to be the parent that I never had. But that's my job now as an adult.
I think the similarity, as I see it, is that because I think about the inner child similar to how I mean, that's sort of what I've heard, what you described, Stephanie. But I think the struggle that a lot of people have with their inner child, though, is that the inner child wants what they want when they want it, which is, if you can look at that from the view of if it's a young child that doesn't know any better and just needs a healthy parent to set boundaries, then that's fine.
Yes.
But if you don't have that parent, then it's pretty similar to the ego. It just completely
okay
like
I hear you there.
Like I don't know, I assume most people have had this experience, but I've definitely had an experience where I have been at a home of someone and somebody brings a little kid over and this little kid's parents have set no boundaries with them ever. And it's like the whole event becomes about
this is a whole nother topic.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just trying to relate it back to what Dana said, because
sure.
it resonates for me, because that's like a real world example of like the whole event becomes trying to rein that kid in, and it's almost impossible, because the primary source of his
that's just a willful child not having been parented well.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's where for me there's the similarity, because that's how my ego behaves. My ego behaves like a little kid that's never had a parent, gets to do whatever he wants whenever he wants to, and doesn't understand boundaries, doesn't understand like why we shouldn't be able to do something because we want to do it. It's
funny, because I think of ego as more of like, I know what's best kind of a thing, or I'm going to be better than, or, I'm like, so that I think of that ego as like, I know how to do this. I'm, willful, like.
Well, but but there's a similar, I mean, you're doing it with a face and a voice that's like,
a child.
But I mean, the ego has a value for us. I mean, the ego
absolutely
has something that does, it's intended to protect us and to, help us go out in the world and sort of achieve what we want.
It's just when it's running the show
that's the problem. When it's unbalanced by anything else, it becomes a selfish, nightmare, basically.
Yeah.
Not unlike that poor little kid I saw one day.
And so we sit down with it as well, right? The ego just wants to be held. It's dying to be held, really. It's like that child, right?
I've never heard anyone say that before, Dana. That is profound.
It's very true.
I don't think many of us look at it in that respect.
It's just to be held. It's not about trying to remove it again. It's not about, it is removing, but it's not about trying to disregard, get away, push it aside. It is like, come here, sit with me. I hear you, ego. I hear you're trying to do, I know you're uncomfortable. I know you're scared. The ego constantly is trying to protect. It does it in a way that actually contracts. It makes us smaller, right? It makes us tighter, smaller, contracted, right? When we're inherently limitless and abundant and expansive. The ego is like, no, don't do that. You're going to get hurt. Stay away. You're going to be attacked. Watch out. And it's like, no, it's okay. Come here. I got you. It's all right.
I love that part of your method. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
This is what we do. We embrace whatever's going on, whatever it is. It's okay. Wow. Right? That's the message. Whatever you got going on, it's okay.
Bravo.
Yeah, just recently I've actually noticed an issue that I've been working on where like it's tough to get myself to sit down and do like very focused mental work for long periods of time. And then when I finally get myself to do it, it's very difficult for me to take breaks. And sometimes I will just work for hours without a break and it seems okay. And then when I finish the work, I'm like a crazy person. Like I'll eat whatever I want. I will watch whatever I want. I'm just no boundaries. And what I've observed is I think that's part of the thing is like, I'm not honoring the ego there. Like that the lack of breaks is really scaring the crap out of my ego. And then when I'm finished, my ego is like, all right, I'm taking charge because you just like, you just went way too far, buddy. So now I'm taking the wheel. And it's like, if I can take breaks, I'm calming down. I'm sitting with what's going on. I'm coming back into the present. I'm acknowledging that, yes, this work is important, but it's not my whole existence. Like I also am going to get to sleep later. I also get to have fun. I also get to rest. I also get to meditate, all these things. But yeah, that's a really powerful thing. Because I think a lot of the, I don't mean to throw any of our colleagues under the bus, but I think there's a lot of this idea in a lot of spirituality, self-help, law of attraction work where people talk about the ego as like your enemy. It's like this internal enemy that's always trying to defeat you. And you've always got to like try to be stronger than it and overcome it or let go of it or whatever the method is. And, for me, anytime I've tried to like have a battle with something inside myself, it never ends well. What I've been taught and what has worked for me when I've done it is when I accept things about myself, even the parts that are kind of hard to look at or, difficult, uncomfortable to sit with, as you've mentioned. The more I just sit with it and love the different parts of myself, the more integrated I feel and the more empowered I feel as a person in the world. Like trying to fight this whole idea of like, well, you've got to fight the ego. You've got to like be super zen and let go of the ego all the time. It's like, that's setting up a fight in here with yourself. Like that's usually not helpful.
Yeah, and fighting doesn't work, right? It just
Yeah.
perpetuates the fight. It's just
Yeah.
like drop the rope and like
Yeah.
it's over.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like all of our guests, did you have another question, Stephanie?
I was gonna throw in our new question.
Okay. Oh, perfect. That's what I was gonna do too. I was just gonna say, like all of our guests who are all awesome, Dana very much included here today, we could probably keep this conversation going just forever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dana. So we've decided to incorporate this into our guest appearances now. And we want to know, what did you like to do for fun when you were a little girl?
When I was a little girl, I really loved to make my own paper dolls from fashion magazines. Now, my stepfather worked at the Broadway back in the day and would bring home Vogue, Bazaar, all these magazines. So I would create my own from cutting out the fashion models and have them. They had the best outfits.
Oh
my previous career is a wardrobe stylist. So I have always been into fashion and design and wardrobe, and it's so juicy and delicious. It's my other life. So that's what I did when I was a kid, and I basically haven't stopped being interested in styling. But yeah, I made my own paper dolls, and they were really cool.
I bet they were.
That's amazing.
My God.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That would be a fun artist date to do with you, is to just like be in Zen with you and just, 'cause I love to cut. So there's just something really meditative, peaceful, like just to cut things out. And I have a pair of scissors I really love. They're kind of like little kid scissors, but they're really good. And I can just sit and just cut, and like it just feels so good to me. But that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for asking. This has been really great, you guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here, Dana. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast. We want to thank you so much for listening or watching, and also for liking, following, subscribing, reviewing. All those things help other people find us, so we're grateful for you for doing for that. If people want to find you, Dana, we'll put some text links and everything in the descriptions, but for people that are listening into the car and can't write anything down right now, do you have your website or?
DanaNicoleGriffin.com is my website. All the information's there. My Instagram page is Dana Griffin. It's all there. I'm on Pinterest. I have a Google business page under Dana Griffin, the Mind Coach. It's all there. Super easy to find.
Cool. All right. And again, I'll post that for everybody in the description there, but want to make sure we get it audibly as well. And if people want to find you, Stephanie, where can they do so?
www.powerenjoy, POWERINJOY.com, and also same on Instagram.
All right. And you can always follow me and send me a direct message to me on Instagram. I am at Collin_Daniels_Worster. Thank you again so much, everyone, for listening and watching. We wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station.
Bye, y'all.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.